Thank you, Minds Journal, for having me here today to talk about mindfully letting go of toxic relationships. I'm really excited to be here. My name is Jordan Scotti. I am a licensed psychologist in Montana. I've been practicing for a little over a decade. I'm currently in private practice. I've worked in a few different settings and capacities. And mindfulness is just one of my favorite topics to speak on, to write about. It just really applies itself so beautifully to most aspects of life. But one that really comes up a lot with my clients is using mindfulness to deal with relationships, and especially letting go of relationships that are unhealthy for us. And most of what we'll talk about today applies to romantic relationships, platonic relationships, family relationships, really any kind of relationships that are not working for us that could be considered toxic or unhealthy. We are going to go through a lot today, but I also write on a number of topics. So if you like what we're talking about, you want to learn more about some of the different mindfulness topics and other things I contribute content on, you can follow me on Instagram at Wild Heart Psych. You could visit my business website, which is wildheartmt.com. I also have a Substack um, that is called Sober Gal Summer, that is focused on sober curiosity and how that contributes to wellness. And then I have a blog on Psychology Today called East Meets West. That's a lot about mindfulness and just various topics that kind of integrate modern science and psychology with more traditional wisdom, Eastern traditions like Buddhism. So check me out if you like what we've got here today. And let's start by actually clarifying what we mean by mindfulness. I think this is a term that's thrown around a lot. And so I just want to be clear on what I mean by mindfulness. To me, mindfulness means being fully present and aware of the current moment without judgment. So it's paying attention to your thoughts, your feelings, body sensations, and even what's going on around you without getting carried away by those sensations, thoughts, feelings, or reacting automatically. So, to get started today, why don't we just take a minute and tune in mindfully to what is happening in our own bodies? Turning inward, it can help sometimes to close your eyes when you're trying to turn inward. Just take a few seconds here, notice if there are certain body sensations that you feel anywhere, pleasant, unpleasant. You don't try to change it. Don't judge it. Just notice. Same with any feelings, any thoughts that are coming back, maybe jumping back into your mind, something you forgot to do, something you need to do next. Just notice without judging and without letting anything carry you away from this present moment. When you're ready, bring your attention back to the presentation. That was it. You just practiced mindfulness. That's pretty much how we do it. And we'll talk in greater detail about how we can do it for this specific topic. So, what makes a relationship toxic? So, I want to specify that it's important to me as I use this word toxic that I'm not referring to a toxic person. I don't believe that people themselves are toxic. There are certainly people who are not healthy enough to be good partners in relationships. But really, when I refer to something being toxic, I am talking about the relationship dynamic. It's the mismatch between individuals or in a family system that is unhealthy. And some signs of toxicity are things like lack of respect, criticism, dishonesty, gaslighting, and manipulation. We'll talk a little bit more about that today. When there's frequent conflict or just unpredictability and consistency, jealousy and possessiveness, just that sense of lack of safety, whether that's physical or emotional safety, or even just exhaustion, just feeling exhausted by a dynamic that keeps recurring, that is not getting better. And not all of these signs on their own or in small doses are an indicator that a relationship is doomed. And also, there are probably signs of toxicity that aren't on this list. But these are some of the most common signs that a relationship is unhealthy that I have seen, and that tend to make me think that the relationship is probably not likely to succeed without some pretty serious intervention. So, letting go mindfully. So, we know it's time to let go when our body is rejecting the relationship. So, we can be having headaches, stomach aches, just recurrent illnesses. We're just finding that we're having trouble sleeping, eating. Our body is just telling us that something is off. That can be a sign that it may be time to let go. Also, if our mind keeps casting doubts, now sometimes we can have hangups from old relationships. It can be hard for us to trust. It can be difficult to tease out when the mind is giving us wisdom and when it is sort of repeating fearful old patterns. And so that is a process that we have to work through. Mindfulness is absolutely one of the best ways to work through that process. But really, if your mind keeps telling you a situation is not right, you should be paying attention to that. Um, when you find that your emotions are more bad than good, when you are suffering more than you're benefiting, that is a sign that it may be time to let go. If you feel like you're losing yourself, you're losing touch with who you feel that you are on the inside, the things that you care about, the values that you care about, the people that have been in your life, the activities, hobbies, interests. If you're finding distance from those things, that is a real sign that something is not right. And also, if the solutions you've tried aren't working, if you have put a lot of effort and time in and you're not seeing progress, those are all signs that it may be time to let go of the relationship. And we tune into this wisdom mindfully. So that looks like pausing for silence. If you are constantly running around doing things, being as busy as you can be, and not making any time for silence or quiet reflection, you are not going to be able to mindfully notice these indicators that it's time to let go. We need to turn inward with curiosity. So, getting curious, what is this headache I keep having every week? Is this about stress in my relationship? Is it about something else? Just really turning inward to what is happening in our bodies, our minds, with our emotions, and getting really curious about what is causing what. Oftentimes, in order to do this, we have to take space away from the other person. It can be very, very hard to know what we truly think and feel if we are constantly with someone else expressing how they think and feel. So, making space for yourself is essential to mindfully uncovering what is needed in your life. Listening to that inner wisdom. So, listening to that voice inside, that sort of wiser, higher self voice that's there that kind of tells you either in words or with a feeling in your stomach, that intuition that's sort of guiding you as to whether things are going well or not. We need to be listening to that. And we can also help figure this out by really just clarifying our values and our needs. What is important to me? What is essential to me in a relationship? What am I looking for in my life? What are my needs? Once we tune in to all of these different domains, it starts to become very clear whether or not it is necessary to let go of a relationship. And probably the hardest part of the process is making that decision to let go. That's really where we need mindfulness to help assure us that we are making the right choice. We need to be exploring our inner experiences sort of repeatedly, consistently, and really examining how the relationship fits with our values and our goals in life. Now, once we've sort of made a decision that it is time to let go, we can I'm going to give you a few different specific strategies, but I want to first introduce just kind of some of these big ideas for mindfully letting go. So, just big picture, broad scope, how to bring mindfulness into this process. The first and most important thing is going to be allow and accept your emotions. So, anytime we end a relationship, we are going to have emotions about it. And they're going to vary day to day, week to week, moment to moment. And we are at our best when we allow these emotions to come up, whatever they are, and accept them for whatever we are for whatever they are, excuse me. There's a saying, what we resist persists, and that is the most true with emotional experiences. So if you want to get through this process of letting go as gracefully and with as much ease as possible, you need to bring that energy and spirit of acceptance and welcoming to whatever is coming up for you emotionally. And the next part of that, and one way to kind of help you do that, is to cultivate gratitude for the wisdom of your emotions. It really helps to have a mindset that our emotions serve an essential purpose, that they are there to help us learn, to guide us, that they are part of our body for a reason. And so it was our emotions that helped us understand that the situation wasn't right for us. And it'll be our emotions that help us learn the lessons that we need to learn in this experience and move forward with our lives. Another sort of key idea is this idea of alchemizing your emotions. So, emotions bring this energy and intensity that can be uncomfortable. It can be very hard to sort of sit with all of that energy running through our body, moving through our minds. And we think about alchemizing those emotions as essentially turning that energy back into our own growth. So we take something that might feel uncomfortable, that's pressuring, that's heavy, that's ugly, that's yucky, that just isn't sitting right. And we say, where can I put this energy so that it moves me forward, so that I'm not looking back, I'm not casting blame, I'm not getting stuck. I'm using this energy to motivate and mobilize me so that I am a better, stronger version of myself at the end of this process. And part of that is focusing on the learning lessons. There are lessons that we can take from any relationship and any real life experience, especially the difficult ones. So once we've kind of ridden that initial roller coaster of emotions, it's time to really dig down a little and explore what happened here. What wasn't a good fit for me? What role did I play in creating this dynamic? What lessons can I take moving forward that will hopefully prepare me to have more success in the next relationship? And finally, the last idea, big idea, is practicing forgiveness. Forgiveness for yourself and forgiveness for the other person. Forgiveness is the greatest gift you can give to yourself. It truly is about yourself. When we are not, when we are stuck in anger and blame and have not yet fully embraced that sensation of forgiveness, we are carrying around a heavy and unnecessary burden that only pains us. We punish ourselves when we aren't forgiving others. So, forgiveness, and I have a few specific forgiveness practices that I'll share later in this presentation, is one of the most powerful tools you can use to alchemize those emotions, to move yourself forward emotionally, and to just sort of lighten your load during a really difficult process. So now let's dig into a couple more specifics. Okay, so when I think about breaking toxic attachment, I think about it in two stages. Stage one is all about really making the difficult decision to end the relationship and then sort of surviving those early days when it's very painful and difficult. So, our very first step is just acknowledging that this is toxic, this is unhealthy, and seeking support for yourself. It's recognizing those patterns, those things we talked about that don't feel good in your body, in your mind, in your emotions. And it's actively leaning on friends and family or considering therapy, working with a therapist to find support for the next steps, because this is going to be difficult. You need to have a game plan and you need to have support to help you manage this process. Then, step two is focusing on self care and self compassion. So, oftentimes in these very heavy, difficult relationships, we spend a lot of emotional energy, time, effort, finances. We put so much energy into the relationship. And this next step is about reprioritizing you. It's prioritizing your mental, physical, and emotional needs. It's discovering what you need to be at your best and providing it to yourself. It's about being kind and gentle with yourself during a process that is going to be difficult. It's not going to be pretty. You're not going to be at your best every day, and that's okay. And this is a time, even before you've fully pulled the cord, this is a time to increase self-care practices. So just starting to get into the habit of really consistent, steady self-care. And we'll talk about what that looks like in just a second. And step three is really where you draw that line. So this is where you set the boundary and limit your contact. So creating physical distance, whatever that may look like, that if you're in a romantic relationship, that may mean moving out, asking the other person to move out, saying I'm going away for a month, staying with a friend, just creating that physical space. And creating emotional distance through limiting contact. Sometimes we think that it's enough to just move out, say we're done, and then we're still texting, talking on the phone. We're not really giving ourselves the break that we need. And this is where you really need to clarify your boundaries in this moment and also in your relationships. Do you actually want this person to come crawling back, crying at your doorstep, or do you really want them to leave you alone and respect 30 days of no contact? You really need to get clear on that, and you need to communicate it. Everyone is different. Everyone really has their own level of comfort with how much communication or non-communication works for them. In general, I would say if you've identified that a situation is toxic and unhealthy for you, taking at least 30 days no contact is a very sort of healthy baseline amount of time. Usually 30 days is adequate for kind of regaining your sense of self, clarifying what you want, how you feel, and sort of removing that influence that can sometimes make you second guess your intuition that something isn't right. And then we'll move, actually, before we move on to stage 2, let's talk about some of the skills you need in stage 1. So this is our most difficult stage. And what I recommend for everyone is having what are called distress tolerance skills really kind of like on hand. I would almost recommend making like a little menu of options where you just kind of write down a few different ideas of what you can do when you are feeling really bad or when you're wanting to pick up that phone and text or call. Have a couple different strategies that you can choose from. You go down your menu items till the moment passes, till the distress has passed, because it will pass. It does not last. We can only experience intense emotions for a pretty limited period of time. So we can approach that period of time a few different ways. So one of the first distress tolerance skills that people can learn to use is an acceptance skill. It's basically saying, I know I have this urge to reach out right now, or I know I'm having this sensation that I can't tolerate this breakup or the end of this relationship. But I know intellectually that this will only last 90 seconds, 2 minutes, 5 minutes at most. And I'm going to just mindfully sit through it. I'm going to notice it. I'm going to watch as this sensation rises, intensifies, and as it passes away on its own. And it does. And one of the sort of specific strategies for that is called urge surfing. And it's this basic idea that I'm going to surf this wave of the emotion as it rises and falls. And just like a wave, it will. There's a sort of a predictable pattern, but I can get curious about what this wave is like, this specific wave. How does it feel in my body? What kinds of thoughts are coming up? And just hanging in there with as much curiosity and acceptance and awareness as possible. And just let it pass away on its own. Radical acceptance is kind of that same idea of I am going to notice in the moment if I am resisting something, I'm resisting a feeling coming up, I'm judging myself for having the feeling, I'm judging myself for judging myself having the feeling, like whatever is coming up, getting just totally, getting in this mindset of just being totally okay with it and accepting it and riding it out with as much kind of present awareness as we can. I really like these acceptance skills because once you master them, you can use them in so many different domains of your life. And you just feel like such a rock star because you realize I can literally handle anything that comes up. I don't have to distract myself. I don't have to call someone. I don't have to do anything. I can just sit there and hang in. And so I love these skills, but I will say um, they're a little more daunting to take on. Like, who wants to sit through an 2 to 5 minute session of pain? Not everyone's up for that at this particular moment. And I think they just take a little practice. The more we practice them, the more confident we become, the less scary it becomes. But I love those skills. But I have a bunch of other skills here too for people who say that just might be a little too much acceptance, a little too much mindfulness. No problem. Another distress tolerance skill that I really like is where we sort of change our physiological chemistry. We can do that by doing deep breathing, rapid breathing. We can take a cold shower, hold ice cubes in our hands, jump in a cold lake, do 20 burpees or 50 jumping jacks, exercise, temperature breathing. Any of these are going to just alter our physiological state internally, and that is going to disrupt whatever's happening emotionally so that it passes into whatever's coming next. So those are really great tools, and can pretty much be done anywhere. You could do, 20 burpees virtually anywhere. Um, Soothing with senses is another one I really like. So that is finding things that you can touch that are comforting, that taste good, that smell good, listening to music that's comforting, looking at some beautiful artwork, anything that involves the senses. That is pleasing to the senses is going to be very soothing. And so it can be really helpful to have things like um, lavender body wash or lavender body lotion or peppermint body oil, things like that that have a really nice scent to them that you can rub into your body and massage your body or take a shower. That's going to be really sort of soothing. And then if you add in the scent and the touch, those are kind of operating on a few different helpful senses. There's also distraction. Distraction is an amazing tool. Getting busy, getting things done, watching funny YouTube videos, calling a friend, helping other people. Distraction is going to be a really good way to just ride out uncomfortable feelings. And then there's an acronym called Improve the Moment. I borrowed this adorable little infographic from a website called Self Love Rainbow. And improve stands for imagine, meaning, pause, relax, one thing, vacation, or encouragement. And so you can use these ideas also. So imagine a beautiful place, a vacation that you took before, or visualize things going well, visualize your future that you want to have. Meaning, thinking about why this is important to get through this and what positives are going to come out of it. Pausing, just taking a breath, just taking a break, praying, meditating, just turning inward, relaxing. Definitely so underutilized. The power of relaxing, just unclenching, just giving yourself a little hand massage, a back massage, doing child's pose, taking a bath. One thing. So just focusing on one thing at a time. So clearing off, washing the dishes, just get one thing done. And that can really, really help for you to just be moving forward and just also staying focused without letting your mind kind of spiral to all the ways that things could go wrong. Vacation. So just taking a break mentally, physically standing up, shaking off 15 minutes, go take a walk around the block, just a little mental vacation from whatever you're doing. And then encouragement. So that positive self-talk is so helpful. Just being kind to yourself. I can do this. I am strong. I am lovable. I care about people. I'm doing the best I can. Just really giving yourself that encouragement when things are hard. So those were some of what I call distress tolerance skills. There's a ton more online. You can Google or chat GBT. I would definitely write some down, a little menu for yourself that you can reference when you're struggling and when you need it. We also need to dial up self-care during this window of time. So we need to take that energy that was previously spent on our relationship and put it back into ourselves. So in my mind, fundamentals, this means really this should be part of every day, or perhaps every week. So we need to be getting adequate sleep. We need to be feeding ourselves foods that are actually nutritious, that our bodies like. We need to be moving, walking, stretching, lifting, pushing, actually using these bodies that were made to move. Um, we need a safe, clean environment. If your house is a mess, if your bedroom is a disaster, you are not going to be at your best. You need a safe, clean environment to be functioning properly. You also need social connections. You need friendships. You need people who care about you and people you care about. You need meaningful work. There has to be something that you feel was productive, not every day, but most days. There has to be something that has some meaning that you are contributing to the world in order for you to really feel like you're thriving. There needs to be rest and relaxation in your daily routine. And often I have to put this right into my schedule or it doesn't get done. I also love morning and evening rituals. Morning rituals help set the tone for the day. Evening rituals help signal to your brain and your body that it's time to wind down. We're getting ready for sleep. They are so, so helpful for overall wellness. And I'll share some ideas for morning rituals in just a second. That positive self-talk. If you are saying negative things to yourself, like I'm stupid, no one loves me, I'm ugly, you are not going to be well. You cannot talk to yourself that way. And if you notice those thoughts coming up, you need to stop them and replace them with positive self-talk. I am beautiful. I am strong. I am special. I am lovable. I am hardworking. I am generous. Whatever really feels authentic to you, even if you have to start small, even if you're not feeling that great about yourself, there are positive qualities about you, and you need to be encouraging yourself by telling yourself, I am, and using those words. Those words, I am, are so powerful. We need quiet. We need a break from all the sensory input. We need a break from our phones. We need a break from other people. We need a break from the noise of traffic. We need quiet. And we need fun. That is just part of being a full, complete human. We need fun. We need to be getting out with our friends. We need to be laughing. We need to be petting animals. Whatever it is for you, that is fun. Making art, roller skating, jumping in the ocean. Whatever you consider fun, you need to get it in your calendar. And the last one on here is growth or goals. So it also really helps to know where we're headed, that we're working on something, that we are working on gradually, slowly, even if it's only in the tiniest bits. And really, we just feel like we're surviving. We have some sense that we are moving toward a goal. Just some quick ideas for morning rituals. So the idea behind the morning ritual is that it really sets the tone for your day. So you choose the components that make sense for what you need. So if you have a really hard time getting out of bed in the morning, you might want to do things that actually increase our energy, things like movement and breath work. YouTube has a ton of movement and breath work for energizing in the morning options. I definitely use YouTube all the time for stuff like that. If you're waking up anxious and stressed, maybe you need to set the tone of the day by doing things that are calming, like meditation or some nice slow breathing, gentle yoga. If you're feeling like you're feeling negative or unsure and you really want to feel more kind of inspired or confident, knowing that you're moving in the right direction, I definitely recommend affirmations or visualization practices where you are really in as much detail as possible picturing the life that you want, the life that you are working toward. Or inspirational reading or listening to podcasts, just getting some content in your mind that really kind of sets that positive tone. It reminds you where you're headed, reminds you that you're powerful, that you are taking steps to where you want to go. And then for tuning inward, if you're feeling like you've been disconnected from yourself, you're sort of lost without this other person in your life, and you're trying to reconnect with who you are, meditation and journaling can be really, really helpful. So that was kind of our stage one, deciding and surviving the hardest times. And then we have stage two, which is kind of the more fun part. We've sort of survived that initial heartbreak or the trauma of the separation and the pain of letting go of someone. And we get to start moving forward. And this is where we're focused on growing. So, an area of growth that I really recommend learning about, and I'll share a little bit about next, is attachment styles. So, exploring attachment and relationship patterns, really kind of trying to understand yourself better. This will help you understand really what you're looking for in relationships, and then reinvesting in hobbies and other relationships. So, growing through focusing back on yourself and the things that make you feel good. Then reflecting. So, reflecting on what you want in life, practicing gratitude for what you already have, even if it feels like there's a long way to go. Um, there's things in your life that you can be grateful for. Journaling and reconnecting to yourself. And then again, sort of visualizing your ideal future. These are all things that can really help clarify what's important to you. And then this last stage I refer to as glow, where you're really kind of glowing up, so to speak. You're prioritizing pleasure and activities that make you feel happy. You are increasing your investment in your wellness, be that physical, mental, emotional, all of it, I hope. And also being generous and giving back. Now you have a little more energy, you're taking care of yourself, you can sort of contribute more. And that is part of sort of becoming that sort of glowy, radiant human. Um, I'm just going to quickly touch on attachment styles. This pertains more to romantic relationships. So not this won't apply to everyone. But so when we enter into romantic relationships, we tend to have a pattern in the way that we approach it. And these are broadly categorized as a secure attachment style and an insecure attachment style. And there are a couple subtypes for the insecure. So, a secure attachment style, which is about 50% of people, are pretty comfortable attaching and detaching. They really tend to make decisions based on what's best for them. They're not fearful of losing relationships if it's not working for them. They're sort of not overly needy. They're not overly distancing. They're just kind of cool with relationships. They tend to have a pretty easy time and be pretty easy partners. Lucky them. For the rest of us who fall in maybe an insecure category, this tends to be categorized as anxious or avoidant. And then there is sort of a rather rare third type that's kind of a mix of those two. So the anxious attachment is really where we rely on attachment to make us feel safe. So our nervous system goes into sort of a state of panic if our attachment feels threatened. So these people tend to kind of get real serious right away and kind of fall apart if things aren't working out. And then there's the avoidance style, which is sort of the inverse, where to them, attachment can feel threatening. So there's sort of this fear of being like engulfed by the other person. And they're always kind of trying to create that distance where the anxious folks are kind of trying to pull you closer. And unsurprisingly, or perhaps surprisingly, the anxious and the avoidant tend to pair up and it doesn't go very well. And then, as I mentioned, there is that third type, the disorganized, which is kind of people who sort of tend to fluctuate back and forth between kind of a more anxious or avoidant style. That's thought to be a bit more rare. If you are not familiar with attachment and any of what I just said kind of um, lit a light bulb for you, I definitely recommend looking into some of these resources for attachment. I've got a couple good books and podcasts on here. It's really eye-opening when you explore and understand your attachment style. It helps so much for particularly if you find that you have the same kind of dynamic or relationship patterns and problems come up again and again, but with different partners. This can really be a game changer to understand and also to be able to express your needs clearly to people you are in relationship with. It's not just about you changing, it's also just about communicating who you are and what you need to feel safe. And then that glowing up, I know this is such an overused term, but I just still love it, is just that process of like really recognizing that divine spark within you, and acting like you're dating yourself, treating yourself like the prize, prioritizing your pleasure, your happiness, and putting energy into what makes you feel attractive and healthy and happy. Um, Cultivating relationships that make you feel your best, putting time and energy into those friendships and those people that really make you feel like your best self, and reinvesting in your future goals, whether that's going back to school or doing a training or taking a yoga retreat, whatever it is, focusing on growing you and spending your time on hobbies or interests or simply just being present with yourself. And I also feel like there's a part of this that also involves just kind of trusting that the universe has a plan for you, that whatever you have been through has gotten you to where you are now, and it's preparing you for what's coming next. Um, and then speaking those affirmations, those positive affirmations about yourself until you believe them. And if you undertake all of this, you should be feeling pretty good. You're growing, you're glowing, you're kind of in this, you've really like leveled up from where you started from. But I know that even when you are doing all the right things and you know you're better off without this relationship, and you know that you've leveled up and you are feeling good about what you see in the mirror, and you're spending your days doing things that light you up, there's still going to be hard days and hard moments. And so I'm going to transition now to some of the questions that people contributed, with some of the struggles they've sort of had in this process, because I know that you could follow this guide to the letter and you're still going to have hard moments and hard days. So I want to share some ideas for what to make of it when those come up and how to work with them mindfully. So my first question was from Rachel, which is, what's the difference between being mindful and suppressing my emotions? And I love this question because I do think mindfulness kind of has this, it kind of seems like really dry and like sort of intellectual, like monks just kind of like sitting there meditating. But it's actually, it is more dynamic and emotional than that. And it's kind of this delicate dance between feeling the emotions without getting carried away by them. And so it really helps to have a framework for this. Like, how do I mindfully experience my emotions? So I'm not suppressing them, I'm not getting carried away with them. And there's a framework called RAIN, RAIN, that I really like. So the R stands for recognize, where you basically just acknowledge and label the thoughts, feelings, and sensations. Once we're labeling, we're activating that prefrontal cortex, that sort of more evolved part of our brain that allows us to take more of that observer stance to our emotions and be less inclined to sort of get carried away by them. Then the A is allow. So, really just permitting your experience to be present without judgment, without trying to change it. So, not getting in there and saying, I should be over this. I want to feel better. I only have 5 minutes to be sad right now. Just really allowing whatever is happening to happen. And then I is investigate. So, really just getting curious and attentive. Just what is happening in my body? What's happening in my brain? Let's just get really curious about what exactly is the nature of these emotions. And then N is nurture. So just offering yourself compassion and care in this moment for what you are going through. Um, and I did put a link here to Tara Brach is one of the most amazing meditation teachers, and this is her guiding you through that RAIN process. I really recommend that for everyone. It's such a powerful tool for being able to stay with, work with emotions without letting them carry you away or feeling like you need to suppress or intellectualize them. Shrabani submitted the question, I've tried moving on, but I keep going back mentally. How can mindfulness help with that? And I just love this question. It's so relatable, right? Like we're doing all the right things. we're trying to move on, we're living our lives, we're kicking ass, but then our minds still go back. And it can be really frustrating if we don't know that that is just part of the process. It's 100% natural. And so if we can bring that spirit of mindfulness, it can really help. So starting with maybe some self-compassion. Let's be compassionate for the fact that we are having these thoughts still. If we judge ourselves, we're resisting, and that's likely to just increase the intensity and frequency of these kinds of thoughts. So let's just be compassionate that this is the process our brain is going through. It's doing it at its own pace, and it's okay. We're going to allow. I also think it can be very helpful to explore the purpose of the thoughts. So, is there some information? Is there something that's needed? Are you having thoughts that are specifically about perhaps like physical contact with this person, and you really are needing maybe some physical touch, or you're remembering laughing together, you're needing some social contact? Or maybe it's just a habit. Maybe this thought is a habit. Maybe every time you sit down and have ice cream, you think about the fact that you guys used to have ice cream together after dinner every night while watching your shows. And it's just a wiring together, firing together thing in your brain. So just kind of getting curious and exploring that. Is there something there? Is there some information about something that's needed in your world, or is it just a habit that's sort of finding its way out slowly? And also, we want to practice acceptance of the fact that these thoughts come up and redirection. So let's accept that the thoughts come up. But if we find that we're getting stuck in a storyline, a narrative, um, we're kind of rehearsing again and again mistakes that were made, or we're getting caught in negative self talk, then we kind of want to redirect the brain gently to a place that's a little more positive, reassuring, kind of providing ourselves some of those more reassuring and encouraging messages about things being okay and that we're learning. Um, just kind of noticing if we're looping uselessly in the same storyline, we're blaming, we're shaming, anything like that. We're gonna want to redirect a little bit. Um, and then we want to trust the process. This is just your brain's way of making sense of a confusing situation. This is part of moving on, is going back and checking back in. So just be compassionate, trust that you are moving in the right direction, and then treat yourself. Do something nice for yourself. When these thoughts come back and you allow them with compassion and you practice acceptance and you use these mindfulness skills, like do something nice for yourself. That is a step forward from the many, many other ways that we could approach these types of thoughts. The next question was from Deep, and he said, no matter how much I try, I just can't seem to put a lid on my anger. What is the best way to work on this? This is such a good question. Another great question. Anger is definitely one of the hardest emotions to deal with, I think, for all of us. So, what I recommend is recognizing and respecting the anger. Just once again, just allowing it to be there. Call it what it is. This is anger. And with anger, especially, I find that it tends to be tied to these loops, these narratives of I was done wrong. This happened to me. In this case, I really want you to intentionally cut off the narrative. And instead, I want you to focus on your body sensations, noticing what's happening in your body, noticing any neutral sensations, any pleasant sensations, and noticing where the anger is in your body, really feeling where it is. What does it feel like? Is it tight? Is it hot? Is it radiating? Really put some words to what that anger feels like in your body, as well as any other emotions that are present. It's just really exploring what is happening in the body. And then I want you to ask the anger what its message is for you. What are you trying to tell me, anger? What is the information here? See what the message is, and then consider what skillful action you can take. And that skillful action might be related to the situation, or it might be unrelated. It might be go have a sandwich, Deep, because you are hungry and that's why you're so angry. Or it may be I still feel guilty about this thing and I need to apologize. Or there's still a question I have unanswered that I'd like the answer to. Let the anger give you its whatever, let it speak to you and see if you can answer its question or act on its directive skillfully. Again, if it tells you to go hurt someone, I wouldn't act on that. That's not a skillful choice. I would maybe practice with this a little bit more and see if you can look for a more nuanced piece of wisdom that the anger is trying to provide to you. And then we want to work on forgiveness. This is a ho'opono. I'm probably not saying that totally correctly. It's a Hawaiian word. It is a very powerful forgiveness meditation. I definitely recommend this one, particularly if you are looking to forgive someone else. I do have another meditation that I'll recommend later that's more for self-forgiveness, but this one is excellent for forgiving others and trying to move forward. And remember, forgiveness is for you. It's not for them. It's for you to move forward. Aaron asked, how can I stop obsessing over closure I never got? And the word, I just love the word obsess here because that is really what it feels like, especially when we don't get closure. It's like our minds just turn it over and over and over again. And it can be so painful and frustrating. And Erin, I want you to think about committing to providing your own closure. So I want you to really practice some acceptance skills here. I want you to truly accept in your heart and in your body that you cannot change their behavior. You can't get them to come back to the table to talk to you, to explain themselves. You also can work to accept that closure is an inside job, meaning you can provide it to yourself. And in fact, you will need to provide it to yourself because even if the other person did come to the table and answer all your questions, you would still have to go through a process of closure for yourself. And I want you also to accept that you are giving away your power when you leave closure to someone else. You can either empower yourself to create the closure or disempower yourself by waiting on someone else to provide it. And I want you to accept that that is your choice and choose to empower yourself. And one of the ways we can do that is really by getting clear on what we feel that we need from closure. So, do I need my feelings validated? Do I need to know that that connection was real before it fell apart? Do I need to just feel that connection to someone who cares about me or cared about me? Do I need to know I'm still a good person if I made a terrible mistake? I want you to really drill down to clarify what it is that you want from closure. And then I want you to ask for what you need from someone else. I want you to go to a good friend, get that connection or that time or attention or validation or reassurance that you are a good person. To the extent possible, see what reassurance or emotion or connection others can give you. And the rest, you need to learn to give to yourself. You need to give yourself that compassion and that tenderness and that appropriate care or forgiveness. Whatever it is that is lingering out there under that blanket term closure, you need to get it and you need to give it to yourself. And this is the Ho'oponopono meditation for self-love and forgiveness. And I really recommend this also for closure. I think this could be super powerful for anyone who's sort of struggling with that. Alexandra asks, how do I mindfully respond to manipulation or gaslighting? So just to clarify, so gaslighting is when one partner sort of invalidates or distorts the other's reality. This is usually to avoid accountability, maintain control. Um, it can be a denial of things that have actually happened or conversations. It can be blaming or downplaying or just making the other person, telling them they're crazy, they're too much, they don't know what they're talking about, they're dramatic, things like that. Um, so that's kind of what I'm referring to when I talk about gaslighting here. So I want you to first of all remember, Alexandra, that gaslighting is about them. It's not about you. This isn't something that this does not reflect you at all. It reflects them and some very unhealthy coping strategies that they have learned. I don't recommend arguing. I find that does not work well with gaslighters, but I do recommend asserting your boundaries. So, shutting down in the argument, but asserting a boundary can be saying something like, we see things differently. You're not going to change my mind. I know how I feel. This doesn't feel good to me. I'm done with this conversation. Things like that. When we've been repeatedly manipulated or gaslit, it's really helpful to reflect away from the other person. So if you're still trying to wrap your mind around what's real and what's not real, you need space. You need to get away from this person to sort of reassess what is factual, what is true, and to clarify those facts. And you can consult with others if you aren't sure. That can be people who know the situation. It can be just even your own therapist. And you need to begin the process of trusting yourself. We can lose trust in ourselves when this happens to us repeatedly. And in order to learn to trust ourselves, we need to learn to stay present with our thoughts and feelings and to show ourselves love and respect. We experience something a certain way, we speak our truth, and we act in accordance with that, even if the person next to us says that's not what's happening. If we are healthy individuals and we trust ourselves, we can trust our guts and make choices for ourselves. And we must. We absolutely must. Um, but to find that trust, we really do have to get in the habit of being present and mindful and knowing what's happening internally and knowing what that feeling in our stomach means. Like that, this sensation means this isn't safe. And this sensation means, um, I don't I don't trust this person, or this isn't right for me. I'm nervous. We can learn our bodies and then trust ourselves with practice. Julia said, there are moments when I feel totally fine, then suddenly overwhelmed. Is that normal? And how can mindfulness support me in those waves? Julia, yes. Awesome question. And so normal. So normal. And this really gets us back to kind of those big picture ideas of mindfulness. It's like, how can mindfulness help? Let's accept the wave, allow it to come, stay present with it, see if you can ride it, do that urge surfing where you're just sitting with it, and show yourself compassion. Give gratitude for your mind and this ability, this healing process that you're in. This wave is just part of the healing. We don't know what the specific meaning of this wave is, but we know it's part of this journey of healing that you're on. So trusting it, giving gratitude for it, and then doing something kind for yourself. Even if it's just speaking kind words to yourself after you've ridden that wave, reward yourself, treat yourself, be kind, give yourself the love that you deserve, that you wanted in this relationship but didn't get. Remind yourself that you don't need that relationship to get what you're looking for by treating yourself. Diksha asked, can mindfulness help me forgive someone who never apologized? And yes, this is beautiful. Exactly. This is getting back to that idea of forgiveness. And I definitely recommend those forgiveness practices, those ho'oponopono practices. And then also mindfulness over time. As we become more mindful, we start to realize the real power of forgiveness. We start to see the impact. We start to really feel that it is this gift for ourselves. Um, Like if you are mindfully aware of how you feel before and after you do that forgiveness practice, you're going to get that immediate sort of feedback loop that this is helping me forgive. But then also, as you're more mindful, you're going to really notice the more subtle, peaceful ripples that go outward from that practice. It isn't just in that moment, it becomes overall, your life is more peaceful. And gradually over time, as we are more mindful, the pain that was associated with this situation, the pain of feeling hurt, it fades and it gets replaced by a sense of well-being. Mindfulness really helps move the needle from pain to well-being. You can't speed up that process, but if there's one thing that can make the process a little more graceful, it is mindfulness. And the last question was from Leo. He said, I've let go physically, but emotionally, I still feel stuck. How do I move on? I like the word stuck here, Leo. This is a great question. And what I'd recommend, what I'd like you to see you do is to allow rather than fight against that sense of stuckness and really get familiar with stuckness in your body. Just like I was recommending with anger, it's where is that stuckness? Close your eyes, tune into your body and say, where is it? What does it feel like? And what is the message the stuckness is sending me? You can explore it also cognitively, like what thought loops keep returning that feel like stuckness? What are the stories being rehashed? And emotionally, what are these emotions that are coming up that feel like stuckness? What do they look like? What texture do they have? What is the nature of these sensations? And then sitting with them and allowing them and exploring them, mining them for any wisdom. What is the information here? Is there wisdom here? Or is this maybe like this habit that is slowly fading out, just not as quickly as I'd like? And then just trusting that whatever you are experiencing has some purpose and information, and that it will move on if you just gracefully allow it to. Allow it to inform you to whatever extent it can, and allow it to go. And gradually over time, that will move you forward. You will feel less and less stuck, and you will be able to move on. So, that big picture of mindfulness, there's a lot of detail in there today, but if you can just kind of cultivate this energy, this sense of allowing, of just sort of flowing with what life brings you, of just staying curious with whatever is happening, not resisting, and just really trusting that there is wisdom to this experience, that there is a growth trajectory, that there is some way that the universe is preparing you, is teaching you, is carrying you to your next amazing opportunity. That is kind of the spirit of mindfulness, as it pertains to anything in life, but certainly to relationships and letting go. If you follow me on Instagram or get on my mailing list, I am hoping to have some more related offerings soon. I've been working on a glow up workbook for heartbreak, and some guided meditations to go along with it. So stay tuned. If you have any interest in that. And thank you so much for taking your time to come to this presentation today. It was such an honor. Thank you so much for having me present. It means a lot. And I did just include a couple more resources for folks who are looking for more guidance on this topic. I wish all of you the best. Thank you for spending your day with me. Take good care. Bye-bye.